Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that drains you more than it energizes you? Maybe it's a friendship, a family tie, or a romantic connection that feels like a constant battle rather than a source of support. This, dear listeners, is what we call a toxic relationship. These toxic relationships aren't just confined to the realm of romance. They can slither into any corner of our lives, from our workplaces to our homes, leaving a trail of emotional exhaustion in their wake. They're like hidden dangers, lurking beneath the surface, often unnoticed until the damage is done. The harm they cause extends far beyond the immediate discomfort. They can leave lasting imprints on our mental health, leading to stress, anxiety, and even depression. It's like being stuck in a storm that never seems to pass, constantly battling the gusts of negativity. It's crucial to identify and navigate away from these relationships for the sake of our well-being. Scene script. Experts in the field of psychology have extensively studied the impacts of toxic relationships. We might think that the term toxic relationship is a modern invention, a buzzword of the 21st century. However, psychologists have been studying the negative effects of harmful interpersonal connections for decades. Let's look at what they have to say. Dr. Lillian Glass, a communication and psychology expert, defines a toxic relationship as any relationship between people who don't support each other, where there's conflict and one seeks to undermine the other, where there's competition, where there's disrespect, and a lack of cohesiveness. The key signs, she says, include constant belittling, lack of support, and incessant conflict. Now, what are the impacts of such relationships? According to Dr. Sherry Campbell, a licensed psychologist with over 2 decades of clinical training, toxic relationships can cause emotional and even physical harm. They drain your energy, lead to feelings of unworthiness, and can even affect your mental health, leading to conditions like depression and anxiety. And it's not just the immediate effects. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people with more negative relationships had a greater risk of heart disease over a 20-year period. So the effects of toxic relationships can be far-reaching and long-lasting, but how do we deal with these relationships? Dr. Laura Berman, a relationship therapist, suggests setting boundaries as the first step. This involves deciding what you will and won't accept from others and sticking to it. Therapy can also be a helpful tool in this process. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a licensed clinical psychologist, recommends cutting ties if the relationship is causing significant harm. This can be a tough decision to make, but it's necessary for your mental and emotional well-being. These insights from experts shed light on the complexity and seriousness of toxic relationships. They underscore the importance of recognizing such relationships, understanding their impacts, and taking decisive steps to handle them. Understanding these expert insights can equip us with the tools to recognize and handle toxic relationships. So, how can we recognize a toxic relationship when we see one? Well, it's all about identifying certain behaviors that can be harmful to you or the other person involved. One of the most common signs of a toxic relationship is a lack of respect. This could be in the form of dismissive attitudes, ignoring boundaries, or even outright contempt. You should not feel belittled or insignificant in a relationship. Everyone deserves respect and mutual understanding. Another sign to watch out for is constant criticism. It's normal for couples to have disagreements and even argue at times. However, if there's a pattern of constant criticism that leaves you feeling inadequate or worthless, it could be indicative of a toxic dynamic. Constructive criticism is one thing, but incessant negativity can wear you down. Manipulation is another hallmark of a toxic relationship. This could manifest as emotional blackmail, guilt-tripping, or gaslighting, where your reality is distorted to make you question your own feelings or experiences. Manipulation can be subtle, making it sometimes difficult to spot, but it's important to trust your instincts. It's also crucial to remember that recognizing these signs can be a complex process. Sometimes we're so entangled in the situation that it's hard to see the reality of what's happening. But remember, recognition is the first step towards dealing with such relationships. Recognizing these signs is the first step to reclaiming your life from a toxic relationship. Now that you know the signs, what can you do to navigate away from a toxic relationship? A question we often ask ourselves when we find ourselves entangled in a web of negativity. Well, the first step is to set boundaries. Boundaries are not a sign of selfishness. They are a mark of self-respect. They define what is acceptable and what is not in a relationship. It's essential to communicate these boundaries clearly and stand by them, even when it's tough. The second step is seeking professional help. Therapists, counselors, and support groups can provide a safe space to share your experiences, and they can offer guidance on how to deal with toxic relationships. Remember, it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help, it's a sign of strength. Now let's talk about self-care. It's more than just bubble baths and chocolates. It's about taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical health. It's about making time for activities that bring you joy, peace, and fulfillment. It's about surrounding yourself with positive influences and cutting off negative ones. And finally, remember, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to put yourself first. Don't feel guilty for choosing your happiness and well-being over a toxic relationship. Remember, you have the power to choose who you allow into your life. Choose relationships that lift you up, not ones that pull you down.